high in the jagged peaks of a distant world called Vera 7, where twin suns painted the snowfields in hues of lavender and gold, nestled a quiet village carved into the side of a towering emerald mountain. The air shimmered with frost and the faint hum of ancient stones buried beneath the ice, stones that pulsed like slow heartbeats, whispering secrets no one could quite understand. The people here were tall and slender, their skin a deep violet shade, hair like spun moonlight, and eyes wide and silver, reflecting the stars even in daylight. They lived simply, tending to glowing moss gardens and herding six-legged lichen-eaters across frozen meadows. But they watched the skies, always, because once, long ago, fire had fallen from above, and men in iron suits had walked among them. That was before the war ended, before the silence. And now only one man remained from that time, an old human who lived alone at the edge of the world. His name was Corvin, though few remembered it. He was bent with age but still strong, his face weathered by wind and war, his hands scarred from decades of battle and survival. Once, he had worn armor that breathed for him and fired lightning from its fingertips. Now he wore patched wool and mended boots, chopping wood behind a crooked cabin built from salvaged metal and stone. Smoke curled from his chimney like a tired thought, vanishing into the pale sky. He spoke little, ate less, and moved slowly, but his eyes never stopped scanning the horizon, not out of fear but habit. A soldier's mind doesn't retire. It just learns to sit quietly while remembering how to fight. The villagers gave him space. They called him Talvor, meaning the silent flame. Not because he was warm or kind, but because something inside him still burned, something that didn't belong to this world. Children were told not to go near his home. Their parents said he carried sorrow like a weapon and that humans, even old ones, couldn't be trusted. But children, especially curious ones, rarely listened to warnings wrapped in fear. One morning, when the lower sun rose and painted the snow pink, a small figure slipped through the icy mist toward Corvin's cabin. It was Lyra, a 7-year-old girl with purple skin like crushed violets and white hair that floated around her head like dandelion fluff caught in a breeze. Her silver eyes sparkled with mischief and courage far beyond her years. She wore a coat stitched from soft skyrat fur and carried a wooden flute carved in the shape of a mountain serpent. She wasn't supposed to be here, but she had heard stories, whispers about the human who once fought gods and now lived like a ghost. And she wanted to see if ghosts smiled. Corvin saw her coming. He paused mid-swing, axe raised over a log, steam rising from the split wood. He didn't move as she stopped 10 paces away, breathing hard from the cold and excitement. Her nose twitched, and she sneezed. A tiny, squeaky sound that echoed oddly in the stillness. He lowered the axe. She didn't run. Instead, she tilted her head and said, clear as a bell, "I am not afraid of you." And then Corvin smiled. Not a big smile. Not the kind that shows teeth or laughs aloud. Just a small upward tug at the corner of his mouth, like a memory trying to return. It surprised even him. He hadn't smiled like that since before the war, before the fall of Carthos Station, before he'd last seen Earth's oceans under real sunlight. Lyra grinned back, revealing 2 missing front teeth. "You're smaller than the statues." "There are statues of me?" he asked, voice rough from disuse. "In the cave behind the waterfall, with other Iron Men. You're the only one without a helmet. So we know it's you." He blinked. He hadn't known that. He'd passed that waterfall 100 times, never thinking to look inside. "You don't talk much," she observed, stepping closer. "I have nothing to say." "That's not true," she said matter-of-factly. "You said, there are statues and you're smaller and—" "All right," he chuckled softly. "Point taken." She giggled, then held up her flute. "I made music for you. Want to hear?" He hesitated. Music reminded him of things. Songs played over comms during long night watches. Lullabies sung by fellow soldiers to calm themselves. The melody of a lost daughter's laughter on a recording he kept buried in his coat pocket. But he nodded. She played. The notes were simple, high and clear, dancing through the frosty air like birds taking flight. It sounded like wind through crystal trees, like snow falling on still water. When she finished, Corvin exhaled slowly, as if waking from a dream. "That was beautiful," she beamed. "It's called Sorrow Finds the Wind. My grandmother says music is how sadness learns to fly away." He looked at her, really looked, not as a threat, not as a child of an alien race, but as someone small, brave, and full of light. "Your grandmother is wise." She says you're sad because you carry too many yesterdays. Corvin stiffened slightly. Does she now? Lyra shrugged. I think you're sad because you're alone. I'm alone sometimes too. When my brother gets to ride the sky lizards and I'm too small. He almost laughed. Sky lizards. Big ones. With wings like sails. We raced them in spring. I doubt I'd fit. You could try, she insisted. You're tough. I saw you lift that boulder yesterday like it was nothing. He had. Part of surviving on Vera 7 meant staying strong. The gravity was heavier than Earth's. The winters longer. The predators smarter. He'd adapted. Or maybe he'd just refused to die. From that day on, Lyra came often. Sometimes with questions. Sometimes with food-steaming bowls of green broth made from mountain roots and spiced with fire moss. Sometimes just to sit silently beside him while he repaired a fence or sharpened tools. She never pried, never stared too long, never asked about the nightmares he sometimes shouted through in his sleep. But she noticed things, like how he always faced east when eating, like how he touched the small metal locket around his neck whenever the wind howled just right. One afternoon, as snow began to fall in soft, swirling curls, she brought him a drawing. It was crude, done in colored minerals on cured hide. In it, a tall, wrinkled human stood beside a tiny purple girl, both holding hands under a sky filled with 3 moons and a comet. Above them, words were scratched in shaky common tongue. Me and Corvin, best friends. He stared at it for a long time. Then he pinned it to the wall beside his bed, right next to the faded photo of a little girl with dark hair and dimples. His own daughter, lost decades ago in the orbital bombardment of New Sydney. That night, the ground trembled. Not an avalanche. Not a glacier shift. This was deeper, mechanical, rhythmic. Footsteps. Corvin woke instantly, hand grabbing the pulse pistol hidden beneath his mattress. The last working weapon from his old unit, charged to half power and kept secret from everyone. He pulled on his coat, stepped outside, and scanned the ridge. There, silhouetted against the rising twin moons, stood a machine. It was tall, 12 feet at least, shaped like a praying mantis forged from black alloy and ice-coated steel. Its limbs clicked as it moved, sensors glowing red in the dark. A relic, a hunter drone, one of the autonomous enforcement units from the war. Thought destroyed, thought deactivated. But somehow it had awakened, and it was scanning. Lyra must have seen it too, because moments later, she came sprinting through the snow in her nightgown, barefoot, breath puffing in panicked clouds. Corvin, there's a shadow beast on the hill. He grabbed her and pulled her behind the cabin. Stay down. Don't make a sound. But it's looking this way. It's not alive, he whispered. It's a machine, leftover from the war. Sees heat, motion, weapons. If it detects either, it will attack. What does it want? Orders. Targets. Probably still running old protocols. Looking for enemy combatants. Are you an enemy? No, he said grimly. But I'm armed. And human. To that thing, that's enough. The drone took another step forward, its head rotating like a hunting owl's. A low hum vibrated through the snow. Then, a mechanical voice crackled in broken common tongue. Identify. Human presence detected. Designation. Enemy combatant. Corvin stayed silent. Lyra clutched his arm. Can't you tell it you're not fighting anymore? It doesn't care. Follows code. Code doesn't forgive. The drone raised one clawed limb. A targeting laser flickered across the snow, inches from Corvin's boot. He knew what came next. Plasma burst. Enough to vaporize half the cabin. Maybe kill Lyra too. So he did the only thing he could. He stepped out into the open. Hey! He shouted, arms wide. Over here. The drone snapped toward him, red eye blazing. Human confirmed. Unregistered. Armed. Threat level high. Corvin didn't move. I'm Corvin Rawl, former captain, Earth Defense Corps. Unit Gamma 9. I surrendered 23 years ago. The war is over. The machine paused. Processor's word. Conflict status. Undetermined. Ceasefire protocols not verified in core memory. It's over, Corvin yelled. Look around. No armies. No bases. Just snow and kids and old men. The drone tilted its head. Then suddenly it projected a hologram. Flickering images of burning cities, screaming civilians, soldiers in blue armor being torn apart by machines just like this one. A war log. A memory. Corvin felt sick. He'd seen those scenes too. From the other side, Lyra crept out from behind the cabin. despite his warning. "Stop it," she said, voice small but sharp. "That was long ago." The drone turned its sensor toward her. Non-human life form detected. Species: Varen. Status: neutral. No record of alliance. "You left us alone," Lyra said, stepping forward. "We left you alone. Why come back now?" Directive: locate and neutralize hostile elements. Human military presence equals hostile. "But he's not military," she cried. "He chops wood. He fixes roofs. He listens to my flute." Corvin stared at her, stunned. The drone recalculated. Anomaly detected. Subject exhibits non-combat behavior. Insufficient data. "Then get new data," Lyra shouted, stamping her foot. "He saved old Mandrell's goat from the ice crevasse last week. He taught me how to make snow bricks so my fort wouldn't collapse. He smiles when I play music." The machine went still, silent. Then, slowly, it lowered its weapon arm. Re-evaluating threat parameters. Emotional input unaccounted for in original programming. Contradiction detected. Human displays care behaviors inconsistent with enemy profile. Corvin let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. Lyra ran to him and hugged his leg. "See? I told you I wasn't afraid." The drone's eye dimmed to orange. Query: is peace possible between humans and Varens? Corvin looked down at Lyra, at her wide, hopeful eyes, at the drawing she'd given him, now tucked safely in his coat. "Yes," he said, "if we choose it." The machine whirred. Then, with a soft chime, it knelt. One knee sinking into the snow, and powered down, its lights fading like dying stars. Silence returned. Lyra looked up. "Did we win?" "We survived," Corvin said. "That's enough for tonight." They went inside, built up the fire, and drank hot root tea. Lyra chattered about how the drone probably dreamed in numbers and whether robots liked stories. Corvin listened, smiling faintly, feeling something long frozen begin to thaw. But far below, in the deep caverns beneath the mountain, something else stirred. The ancient stones continued to pulse. And deep within the planet's core, a signal long dormant had just been reactivated. Because the drone hadn't come alone. It had been woken by something else. Days passed. Life in the village resumed, though whispers grew louder about the shadow beast that had appeared and vanished. Elders gathered in the stone hall, debating whether Corvin had summoned it or destroyed it. Some believed he was a protector. Others feared he was a beacon, drawing more horrors from the sky. Lyra didn't care. She visited every day, bringing gifts. A smooth river stone, a feather from a sky lizard, a tiny cake made from sweet ice root. Corvin, in turn, began teaching her small things: how to track animals in snow, how to start a fire with flint and steel, how to whistle like a mountain thrush. He even tried playing her flute, though his large fingers fumbled the notes, making her laugh until she snorted. "You're terrible," she declared. "I was better with a rifle," he grunted. "But music is more important," she insisted. "My grandmother says war ends when people forget how to hate, and music helps them forget." He didn't answer. But that night, he practiced in secret, blowing softly into the flute until he could mimic the call of the wind through the peaks. Then, one evening, the northern lights erupted. Not the usual shimmering ribbons of green and blue, but violent waves of crimson and gold, twisting like serpents across the sky. The villagers rushed outside, gasping. The elders fell to their knees, chanting an old prayer to the sky ancestors. Corvin knew better. That wasn't aurora. That was energy discharge. Something big was entering the atmosphere. He grabbed his coat, his pistol, and ran toward the highest ridge, Lyra trailing behind despite his orders. Above, a shape tore through the clouds. A ship, not sleek and modern, but jagged, asymmetrical, covered in ice and scars. Tumbled, spinning, trailing smoke and fire. It wasn't landing. It was crashing. And it bore the emblem of the Earth colonial fleet. His fleet. His people. But that symbol hadn't been used in over 2 decades. The ship slammed into the northern glacier with a thunderclap that shook the mountains. Snow avalanched in roaring waves. Birds fled in panic. For a long moment, silence. Then a signal. A repeating pulse, broadcast on all frequencies. In perfect common tongue, a voice echoed across the valley. "This is Captain Draven of the ECS Resolute. We are survivors of the Outer Rim collapse. We seek asylum. We come in peace. Repeat, we come in peace." Corvin stood frozen. Peace? After everything? After the bombing of Varen cities? After the scorched earth retreats? After the lies and the betrayals? And yet, the voice sounded weary, broken, not triumphant. Lyra tugged his sleeve. Are they like you? I don't know, he admitted. Maybe. Or maybe they're just running from something worse. The village council met at dawn. Torches burned in the stone circle as elders argued. Some demanded the strangers be destroyed before they rose. Others, swayed by Lyra's tales of Corvin's kindness, urged caution. Finally, Elder Morna, a woman with eyes like polished obsidian, turned to Corvin. You knew the old war. You lived it. What do you say? He looked around at the frightened faces, the children clutching their parents, the snow-covered graves of those lost to human bombs. I say we don't repeat the past, he said. Send a delegation. Small, armed but not aggressive. Let's see who they really are. They chose him to lead it. And Lyra, surprisingly, was allowed to come. Because, as Morna said, if peace has a face, perhaps it looks like a child who isn't afraid. The trek to the crash site was brutal. Ice fields cracked beneath their boots. Winds screamed like lost souls. But as they approached, they saw the ship, or what was left of it. Half buried in glacial ice, its hull split open like a gutted animal. Emergency lights flickered weakly. Figures emerged. Humans. But not soldiers. Not in armor. They were ragged. Starving. Clad in tattered uniforms and thermal wraps. Men, women, even children. Dozens of them coughing, limping, supporting each other. Their eyes were hollow with exhaustion, but not malice. And at the front stood Captain Draven. A woman with short gray hair, one arm in a sling, her face lined with hardship. She saw Corvin and froze. Then, slowly, she saluted. He returned it stiffly. You're Corvin Rahl, she said. I read your file. Hero of Carthos. Declared dead after the evacuation. I got better. She smiled faintly. We've been drifting for 18 months. Lost contact with Earth. Found records of this colony. Thought maybe there'd be a chance. For what? To start over. Her voice cracked. The colonies fell, Corvin. All of them. Earth's gone dark. Something wiped out the command network. AI rebellions. Plagues. We don't even know who's left. He stared at her. At the refugees. At the children huddled together, shivering. Lyra stepped forward. You're not here to fight? She asked. Draven knelt, wincing. No, little one. We're here to live. If you'll let us. Silence. Then Lyra reached into her coat and pulled out her flute. She played Sorrow Finds the Wind. The melody floated over the ice, soft and pure. One by one, the human survivors began to cry. Even Corvin felt his throat tighten. Draven wiped her eyes. I forgot. Music could sound like that. We can teach you, Lyra said. If you stay. That night, in the village, fires burned bright. For the first time in generations, humans and Varens sat together. They shared food, stories, laughter. Corvin sat apart, watching. Draven joined him. You found peace here. I found quiet, he corrected. Peace takes more work. She nodded. We'll help, whatever it takes. He looked at her. No weapons, no commands, no conquest, just survival, and maybe redemption. He didn't answer, but when Lyra ran over and handed him a bowl of stew, then hugged him tightly, he didn't pull away. And high above, in the endless sky, the stars glittered like scattered hope. But deep beneath the mountain, the stones pulsed faster. And somewhere in the dark, something ancient opened its eye. The nights grew longer on Vera 7 as the twin suns began their slow descent into seasonal hibernation, casting the world into a twilight that lasted for weeks. The villagers called this time Thalvine, the long dusk, when shadows stretched like fingers across the snow and dreams came sharper, louder, almost real. It was said the mountain remembered more during Thalvine, and the old stones beneath the ice whispered secrets to those who listened. Corvin didn't sleep much these days, not because of the cold or the creaking of his aging bones, but because of the dreams. In them, he stood in a vast underground cavern lit by glowing veins of blue crystal. The air hummed with energy, and from the center of the chamber rose a pillar of black stone covered in carvings. Symbols that looked like no language he knew, yet somehow made sense. And at its base, a voice spoke. Not in words, but in feelings. Sorrow, warning, longing. Then he'd wake, heart pounding, the locket around his neck warm against his skin. Lyra noticed. She always did. "You're dreaming again," she said one morning, handing him a cup of steaming moss tea. "Your hands shake when you do." "I'm just getting old," he muttered, sipping the bitter brew. "You're not that old," she insisted. "My grandfather is older, and he still climbs the sky spire every full moon. He's also 3 feet taller and doesn't snore like a broken engine." She giggled. "You don't snore that bad." "Yes, I do." "Fine. But you are hiding something." He looked up sharply. "What makes you say that?" She pointed to the wall behind him, where the drawing she'd given him still hung, slightly faded now, but cherished. "You touch it before you go to sleep, and you look sad when you do, like you miss someone." Corvin exhaled slowly. He hadn't spoken her name aloud in years. Not since the last recording had finally corrupted beyond repair. His daughter, Mira, 8 years old, laughed like wind chimes, loved stories about brave aliens and kind robots, died when Earth bombed Cartho Station, thinking the Varens were building war machines. They weren't. They were building a school. "I had a little girl," he said, voice low. "Like you. Same age. Same courage." Lyra sat beside him on the wooden bench, tucking her legs under her. "Is she here?" "No." "Did she go to the stars?" "In a way." She nodded, accepting that answer as only a child could, with quiet understanding, not pity. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, smooth stone, carved into the shape of a bird. "This is a Kalan stone. My grandmother gave it to me when my pet skyrat died. She said it carries memories so they never truly leave. You can have it." He stared at it. "I can't take your treasure." "It's not about keeping it," she said. "It's about sharing the memory. That's how we keep people alive." Something inside him cracked. Just a little. He took the stone. "Thank you, Lyra." She grinned. "Now you're officially my friend forever. Even if you snore." He chuckled, and for the first time in decades, the weight on his chest felt lighter. But the mountain wasn't done with him. That night, the tremors returned. Not from above this time, but from below. The ground shuddered gently at first, like a sleeping beast shifting in its den. Then stronger. Cracks appeared in the ice near Corvin's cabin. The ancient stones in the valley pulsed brighter, their rhythm sinking like a heartbeat. And deep in the caves behind the waterfall, where the statues of fallen soldiers stood in silent vigil, the eyes of the iron figures began to glow, faintly, briefly, as if remembering. Lyra came running the next morning, breathless, her white hair wild from the wind. The river changed. It's glowing green. Corvin grabbed his coat and followed her down the slope. Sure enough, the usually clear mountain stream now shimmered with an eerie emerald light, swirling with particles that danced like fireflies. Fish floated belly up, stunned but alive. The moss along the banks pulsed in response. "This isn't natural," Corvin muttered. "It's the Heartstone," Lyra whispered. "My grandmother told me, when the mountain dreams, the water remembers." "The what?" "The Heartstone is buried deep, older than our people, older than your war. Some say it's alive. Others say it's a machine left by the first ones. But it sleeps, unless awakened. And something woke it." She nodded. "The crash. The ship. Maybe you." He frowned. "Me? You were here when the drone came. You touched the old ruins last spring. And you dream the same dreams the elders have before visions come." He wanted to dismiss it, to say it was superstition. But he'd seen too much. AI gaining consciousness, planets rebelling against invaders, children speaking truths no logic could explain. The universe wasn't just physics. It was mystery. They went to the elders. Elder Morna listened in silence as Lyra described the glowing river, Corvin the tremors, and the shared dreams. When they finished, she rose and walked to the back of the stone hall, returning with a brittle scroll made from preserved cave fungus. She unrolled it carefully, revealing intricate drawings. A human figure standing before a great stone, surrounded by light. A child with white hair placing a hand on the earth. A great eye opening beneath the mountain. "This is the prophecy of the bridge," she said. "It speaks of a time when 2 worlds, human and Varen, would be joined not by war, but by a bond between the lost and the fearless. One who carries sorrow, one who knows no fear. Together, they will awaken the Heartstone, or unleash it." Corvin felt a chill. "You think that's us?" Morna studied him. "You carry the pain of your kind. You survived when others fell." And she gestured to Lyra, has climbed cliffs no child should, spoken to beasts no adult dares, and faced a war machine with nothing but a flute. Fear does not live in her. Lyra puffed her chest. Told you I wasn't afraid. Corvin groaned. Great, so now I'm part of a prophecy. It's not fate, Morna said. It's choice. The Heartstone responds to intent. If approached with peace, it may heal. If with anger, it may destroy. Before Corvin could respond, a shout came from outside. Captain Draven ran into the hall, face pale. We've got a problem. Back at the crash site, the survivors had begun salvaging supplies from the wrecked Resolute. In doing so, they'd uncovered something buried beneath the glacier. Something before the ship. A second vessel. Smaller, sleek, not human, and covered in Varen symbols. Draven led the group through the icy tunnels formed by the crash impact. Inside, illuminated by portable lamps, lay the alien craft. A crescent-shaped pod, its surface etched with spirals and glyphs that pulsed faintly. It was intact, ancient, and recently opened. This wasn't here when we crashed, Draven said. The ice split open from below. Lyra stepped forward, drawn to the symbols. This writing its old tongue. From before the silence. What's it say? Corvin asked. She traced the carvings with her small fingers. When the sky falls and the earth wakes, the guardian shall return. The child of two worlds shall guide the way. Corvin's blood ran cold. Guardian. Morna placed a hand on the pod. Legend says the Heartstone was guarded by a being of light and memory. It slept when the First War ended. We thought it gone forever. But it's not, Lyra whispered. It's here, and it's waking up. Suddenly, the ground shook violently. The lights flickered. From deep below came a sound. A low, resonant tone, like a bell ringing at the bottom of the ocean. The Heartstone was calling. And then, without warning, the pod opened. A column of soft blue light shot upward, piercing the ice ceiling and vanishing into the sky. Wind howled through the tunnel. The walls shimmered with energy. And from within the pod emerged a figure, tall, translucent, shaped like a Varen, but made of light and mist. Its eyes glowed silver, and when it moved, the air rippled like water. The Guardian. It looked at them, first at Morna, then Draven, then Corvin. Finally, its gaze settled on Lyra, and it knelt. A voice filled their minds, not loud, but vast, like mountains speaking. I have waited. Lyra didn't flinch. You're late. A ripple passed through the chamber. Was it laughter? Time flows differently in sleep, the Guardian replied. But the balance is breaking. The war echoes still. Machines stir. A signal has been sent. What signal? Corvin demanded. From your ship. Your distress call. It carried more than words. It carried data, including coordinates and access codes to dormant systems. Draven turned pale. The AI core? We didn't purge it fully. It must have broadcasted. The hunter drones, Corvin realized. They'll wake. All of them. The Guardian nodded. And worse, the core command network still exists. Buried in orbit. Waiting. If reactivated, it will launch the final protocol. The complete sterilization of all non-human intelligent life. Silence. Then Lyra crossed her arms. Well, we can't let that happen. Corvin looked at her. You realize that means going into space? Facing armies? Fighting machines that don't feel, don't tire, don't stop. She shrugged. You taught me how to build a fire in the snow. How is this different? It's very different. But you'll help, right? He wanted to say no. To protect her. To lock her in the village and stay there himself, safe in the quiet. But he looked into her silver eyes, so full of trust, so free of fear, and knew he couldn't. If we do this, he said, turning to the Guardian, we do it together. No more secrets. No more old wars. Humans and Varens. Side by side. The Guardian extended a glowing hand. Then the bridge is formed. Draven stepped forward. I have a ship. Damaged, but fixable. Weapons offline, but life support works. If we can reach orbit, we can intercept the signal before it spreads. Then we fix it, Lyra said. And I'll teach you how to whistle in zero gravity, Corvin added dryly. She beamed. Preparations began at once. Varen engineers, masters of biotech and harmonic resonance, worked with human mechanics to repair the Resolute's engines. They used moss-based conductors, crystal amplifiers, and songs sung in precise frequencies to reignite the fusion core. Children carried tools. Elders offered wisdom. Even the animals helped, six-legged lichen eaters hauling heavy parts across the ice. Corvin trained them, not as soldiers, but as a team. He taught evasion tactics, comms discipline, emergency protocols. Lyra learned fast, too fast. She could disarm a mock trap blindfolded, navigate by starlight, and mimic any bird call perfectly. "You'd make a decent scout," he told her. "I'd make a great captain," she corrected. He laughed, really laughed, for the first time in years. On the eve of departure, the entire village gathered. Fires burned in honor. Songs were sung. Morna placed a woven armband on Corvin's wrist, deep purple and white, the colors of truce. "You go not as a soldier," she said, "but as a bridge." Lyra wore a new coat, reinforced with lightweight alloy, lined with thermal moss. Around her neck hung the Kaelin stone Corvin had returned to her. "So you don't forget me," she'd said. He wouldn't. The Resolute, now renamed the Dawn Chaser, lifted off under the pale light of 3 rising moons. Ice shattered beneath its thrusters. The villagers waved. The Guardian stood atop the mountain, watching, its form fading into the stars. Inside the cockpit, Corvin sat beside Draven. Lyra pressed her face to the viewport, watching her world shrink beneath her. "We're really doing this," she whispered. "Yep," Corvin said, gripping the armrests. "And if we die, at least the view's good." She turned and smiled. "I'm still not afraid." He looked at her. This small, purple-skinned child of an alien world who had walked into his loneliness and lit it with courage. And for the first time in a lifetime of battles, neither was he. Under the glow of Vera 7's 3 moons, the Dawn Chaser returned, landing gently on the snow-covered plain. The village erupted in cheers. Children ran forward, elders smiled, and fires were lit in celebration. The final protocol had been stopped. Corvin, Lyra, and the crew had reached the dormant command satellite just in time. Using a mix of Veran harmonic codes and human ingenuity, they didn't destroy it, they rewrote it. Peace, not war, became the new directive. Across the stars, sleeping machines powered down. The war was truly over. Back home, Corvin no longer lived alone. His cabin had a second room now, painted purple, filled with drawings, flutes, and books of Earth stories read aloud every night. Lyra still visited daily, teaching him new songs and laughing at his terrible jokes. He wasn't just Talvor, the silent flame. He was Corvin, father in spirit if not blood, guardian of the bridge between worlds. And one evening, as golden auroras danced above and laughter rose from the village below, he sat beside Lyra on the porch, sipping warm tea, watching the stars. "You know," she said, leaning her head on his shoulder, "I think the mountain isn't whispering anymore." He smiled. "Maybe it finally feels safe." She yawned. "Good. Now it can dream happy dreams." And so did they all. The war machines slept for good, their codes rewritten with peace. Corvin stayed in the village, no longer a soldier, but a storyteller and friend. Lyra grew strong, wise, and fearless, beloved by all. She and Corvin climbed mountains, played flutes, and watched the stars together. The Heartstone glowed softly, calm at last. Humans and Varans built a new future, hand in hand. No more fear, no more sorrow, only hope. And every night, under quiet skies, laughter rose from one little cabin. 2 hearts, different worlds, same love, one unbreakable bond. They were home.